So just to name a few point totals for Steph in the last couple games: 53, 47, 49, 42. He's come up in the MVP conversation. Do you guys have him there or not?
Here's the thing about Stephen Curry. I feel like he's a victim of the way the MVP voting is set up. Right now, Stephen Curry is the most valuable player in the NBA, but he won't win MVP. Ironically, the MVP award does not award the most valuable player. We've been through this multiple times. There's people previously that weren't necessarily called. For example, Shaq. Shaq was a most famous one. You feel me? People thought that he was the MVP. Not only that, one of my favorite players, Dwayne Wade. In 2008, he was averaging about 30 points per game, but he barely crept into the playoffs. But he didn't win MVP because his team wasn't winning. Stephen Curry right now, I think without Stephen Curry, the Golden State Warriors would probably be 0-72. It would be an absolute terrible show. We've seen what they were last season, and we understand what Stephen Curry's value brings to the table this year. Here's the thing about Stephen Curry. I believe he should have been doing this from the beginning. I think if he would have been doing this from the beginning, he would have definitely been in the MVP conversations. He is right now, but I think he'd definitely be leading it. I think if he would have been doing this from the beginning, the Golden State Warriors would have possibly been fourth, fifth seed, and just off of the production of right now, even if the Denver Nuggets and the 76ers were above the Golden State Warriors in their respective standings, Stephen Curry would definitely be the leader. But just because, you feel me, he wasn't doing that, of course he wasn't necessarily doing anything bad. He was basically playing within the flow of the offense. That's exactly what Stephen Curry does. Now he's basically elevated his play, but it's just too late. And I think that the MVP award, in my opinion, it needs to be kind of redone. I think it should be two separate awards. If you're going to keep the most valuable player, you have to give it to Stephen Curry because he is the most valuable player. But I think the MVP, what it stands for right now, is the best player of this season. And if you want to call Joel Embiid the best player this season because he's the best player on one of the best teams, you could possibly do that. Same thing with Nikola Jokic. But for the most valuable player, it's definitely Stephen Curry. And I think he should win it, but he's definitely not.
Well, you're wrong. I don't think that Steph Curry should be MVP. First of all, based on what you said, I do like the idea of having, two different awards. You said MVP and then best player. But when you talk about true player value, no one's more valuable to their franchise than LeBron James, based off what he not only does on the court, but what he brings off the court. LeBron James is just second to none. As far as what Steph is doing, I mean, Steph is having a great run. It's been really unbelievable, but they're going to use the ever changing rules against him. There's always some changing hidden flaw about how MVP voting goes that dictates who wins and who doesn't. For example, you had a guy like Russ who took a 6 seed Thunder team and he won the MVP because he averaged 2 more rebounds than Harden. Granted, he didn't have anybody else on his team, but he was consistently giving you triple doubles in those outstanding performances since day one. With Steph Curry's team, you're starting to see the flaws in this team when Steph Curry is the primary guy, the number one without, the second, possibly second best shooter of all time in Klay Thompson. It just took him to get to this point where he's throwing up 30-point games and 10 three-pointers made game in and game out. When it's all said and done, I just think that he hasn't been doing it from the start. And I think that his team is way too low. They're about 3 games out of the AC, and you know how it gets in the West. It's going to be a really uphill battle for him. But I think when you factor in team success as well, I think that's what's going to get in his way of winning another MVP.
And I'm gonna agree because of how the MVP award is given out nowadays. It's usually if you're not at least 3 seed and up and the best player on that team, you're not gonna get the award. But what Steph has been doing is it's crazy. Within like the last 2 weeks, he's raised up his points per game average by like 3, 4 points. Like that's insane. Like I don't know who said what to the man, but he has been on a tear. It's good to see, it's fun to see, but I don't think he has any shot at winning the MVP this year. His team isn't doing as well as they need to be, so that's really it. That's all I have to say about.
So let me ask you a question. If the MVP award was awarded, like how I said it should be awarded, genuinely the most valuable player of the NBA season, do you think Stephen Curry would win that award, regardless of record? Of course, you have to be semi close to the playoffs, but just most valuable player.
Like Tyler said earlier, if it's really the most valuable player of an NBA team, LeBron James would have won it from 2003 till present day.
I agree with that to a certain extent. I definitely think that LeBron James, regardless of if it was a current day MVP or the MVP that I'm talking about right here, the hypothetical most valuable player award, he should have definitely had a lot more. But I just think for this season right here, I'd give it to Stephen Curry just because, of course, LeBron James has been out for multiple games, and of course, his team hasn't necessarily dropped significantly off. I think they're about somewhere close to around like 500, even without Anthony Davis plus LeBron James. I personally think like without Stephen Curry, the Golden State Warriors team would probably win around like 20% of their games. It'll be absolutely horrendous.
But see, here's the flaw in that argument. I get it 100%. If you take Steph Curry off that team, they're drafting Cade Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, they're still losing with him. We can't base it off of are they losing a lot less or are they losing a lot more. I mean, losing is losing, and they haven't been a playoff team all season long. So, and that's with a healthy Steph Curry. So if you take him if you take him off the team, they're still going to be out the playoffs. Even with him on the team, they still may not make the playoffs.
All right, let's say his team makes the playoffs with the playing tournament. As of right now, I think they're around the ninth seed. Even if let's say they capture that eighth spot, does that make him the MVP in your mind? In this hypothetical MVP?
I think that he would have a stronger case because he dragged his team from the bottom literally to a playoff spot. But at the end of the day, I don't know, man. I think it has to be more consistent. You have to be consistently good, and your team has to also be doing consistently well for them to gauge your value as, really high, instead of you getting it together as the season progresses. That's not fair to the guys that have been good from day one. You mentioned the Suns, you mentioned Devin Booker and Chris Paul. Their team isn't too far off on paper from what the Warriors have, with the names and the statistics, but it's the other things that they do. It's the consistency. So I don't know. I think he still wouldn't win in that case.
I get where you're coming from. I just think that the MVP award, as I said earlier, needs to be split up into two separate awards. Give me the most valuable player in a given season, and also give me the best player in a given season, because I think those are two completely different things. But one of the questions I do have for y'all, it's like a broader question regarding the Golden State Warriors. Right now, people are thinking that they're only a Klay Thompson away from actually competing for another title. Do you think that's actually the case, that they're only a Klay Thompson away?
I was talking about this the other day. I forgot with who, but I don't think Klay Thompson. I understand Klay Thompson is a phenomenal player, but I don't think plugging Klay Thompson in is going to give what? How many games back are they from the top 3 seed? About 10 games. I don't think Klay Thompson would be responsible for 10 wins on that team. With Klay Thompson, they were a phenomenal team, but that was also a different Warriors team. That was a Warriors team with a Kevin Durant, a Draymond who isn't out of the cuckoo house like he is now, and with a solid second unit that's going to come out and actually hold the lead or build on it even more. I think it's just a completely different Warriors team for Klay Thompson to just plug in and them to be a championship team again.
Yeah, man, I agree. I think the entire culture has changed as well. So you're gonna see Klay Thompson affected by that too. When you had guys like Festus Ezeli and Mo Spates and Kevin Looney, guys who like to set the screen and get their shooters open. You had Draymond, who was a very intelligent player. He loves to make the pass. He calls himself the best screen setter in the league, or whatever that means.
All time.
So now you got guys like Kelly Oubre who are looking for their shot. You got Andrew Wiggins who was looking for their shot. Even the rookie center, James Wiseman, he was getting it along, but he's looking for a shot. And then to a lesser degree, you got Draymond Green, who's diminished. And, I mean, Steph is going to be Steph, but I agree. I don't think Klay Thompson is, going to be guaranteeing you 10 more wins a season and with the current state of the team.
All right, I agree with y'all, Klay Thompson's point, but I got to say, cut the malarkey. We got to cut the malarkey right now. You telling right now, the Golden State Warriors have certified bucket getters. Kelly Oubre, we understand how he started the season, but he's a bucket getter. Andrew Wiggins averaged 20 points per game before. He's a bucket getter. You telling me them losing Leandro Barbosa, Harrison Barnes, players like, all right, Sean Livingston was decent, but then Andrew Anderson Varejao. You telling me the loss of those players are the difference between a 72-win team and just a middle of the pack team, even though you gained buckets like Andrew Wiggins and Kelly Oubre?
Yeah, Adrian, you wanna explain or should I go?
It's a different system. Like it's a completely different team. I know the names aren't gonna pop out at you. That you're not gonna be like, oh my god, this guy was so good. How could they replace him? No, it was the system that they had going. That's what made him so great. And quite frankly, the system is not there anymore.
And
Even if Klay Thompson comes back, it's not gonna be there.
and I'll go even more recent than that 73-win team. You look at the Boston Celtics as recently as the last 2 seasons ago, when they had a lot of buckets. You had Scary Terry, you had Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kyrie Irving. You had guys that can get you buckets, but if everybody's looking to give you buckets, then nobody's doing the dirty work. Nobody's the Chris Bosh of the team from the Miami Heat. If everybody's looking for their shot, then it becomes a really ball dominant team, and that hasn't been winning in recent years. That hasn't been what's winning championships.
I completely understand. But the last question I want to ask y'all: let's say the Golden State Warriors they stick with their team right now, and Klay Thompson comes back in an 82 game season. How much wins are you projecting them to get?
In the 82 game season, I can see them winning about 50, between 50 and 55. I'll give them that range.
Plugging in Klay Thompson to the current team, about 45 wins, 40 to 45 wins. They're just above 500.
They're scraping 500 right now without Klay. Hey, are you slighting Klay? All right, I respect it.